issue.
Brampton North MP Ruby Sahota asked what steps the government is taking to help the province as Ontario is struggling with the third wave of COVID. Responding to the question, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said that Canadian Armed Forces and the Canadian Red Cross were providing all possible assistance to Ontario.
Many of my Brampton North constituents are concerned about the third wave of the pandemic. Across Ontario, hospitals are filling up, new cases continue to exceed 3,000 per day, and additional help is needed. I know that this federal government has often said what is needed is a Team Canada approach to addressing this pandemic. Can the Prime Minister please tell this House what actions the Government of Canada has recently taken to provide support to the people of Ontario during this pandemic?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to begin by thanking the member for Brampton North for her leadership during this difficult time. I want to reassure all Canadians that we will always be there to provide assistance to provinces and territories. Just this week, we approved a request to deploy immediate support to Ontario through deployment of the Canadian Armed Forces and redeployment of the Canadian Red Cross. Over the course of this pandemic, we have now approved 70 requests for assistance, including 22 from Ontario. We will continue to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to help Canadians get through this COVID-19 pandemic.
The number of patients in the hospitals in Ontario is increasing, so patients from the hotspot areas are being transferred to hospitals in other regions. In view of this, Health Minister Christine Allen has announced new emergency health measures which have suggested other measures to increase the powers of doctors.
Ontario, like many other provinces and jurisdictions around the world, is in the midst of the third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. Driven by variants that are more transmissible and more likely to lead to hospitalization, this wave has proven to be much more difficult to deal with. Our government continues to use every tool at our disposal to address the challenges facing our hospitals. This includes redeploying staff to where they are needed most, transferring patients to alternate hospital sites in surge situations to maximize system capacity, and ensuring that our hospitals have the resources required to provide care for patients. These have not been easy decisions, but they are necessary ones. Today, we are taking further action by temporarily amending an emergency order to ensure hospital beds are available for COVID-19 patients in need of urgent care, while ensuring every patient is able to receive quality care in the most appropriate setting. This temporary emergency order will provide hospitals with the flexibility to transfer certain patients, those whose doctors have determined no longer require hospital care and could be better supported in a more appropriate setting, to a long-term care or retirement home. This would be done in only the most urgent of situations, when a hospital is at risk of becoming overwhelmed. We will ensure patients or their substitute decision makers will have the opportunity to be actively involved in and consent to their transfer. Hospitals may rely upon this order only when absolutely necessary to respond to a major surge event and when the attending physician is satisfied that the patient will receive the care they require in their new setting. I want to emphasize that these patients are often waiting to receive care in another setting. The most appropriate care for them is not always in a hospital bed. These transfers would only be made when medical professionals are confident they will not compromise the patient's medical condition and after a full consideration of any ethnocultural or language concerns.
The third wave in the province of Ontario has hit small businesses hard, with the opposition once raising the small issue of small businesses and questioning the government's grant program. Associate Minister Prabmeet Singh Sarkaria claimed that 2.5 billion has been disbursed under the Small Businesses Support Grant. 57,000 businesses entities have also received their second payment. According to the government has always stood by the businesses community.
Thank you. Speaker, we're in the middle of an entirely avoidable third wave. Small businesses continue to struggle to even access funds that were promised to them after the Boxing Day lockdown during the second wave. They're still waiting for leadership from this government. There's a laundry list of complaints from small business owners about the Small Business Support Grant. My colleagues and I have also reached out countless times asking for support for our business constituents who employ 80% of the workers in Ontario. It's gotten to the point where the problems with this grant program are jeopardizing livelihoods and will undermine economic recovery. Speaker, to the government, what went wrong with the grant program, and why is it taking so long to fix it and to support small businesses across this province?
To reply, the Associate Minister of